Welcome to The Hidden Load, the podcast where we uncover the unseen weight carried by the educators and leaders in medicine and explore how to lighten it. I am Dr. Santina Wheat. I am a family physician, an educator, a leader, and a coach. Each week, we will dig into the challenges that often go unspoken, from burnout and boundaries to purpose and identity to figuring out sustainability, and share practical tools to help you move from chaos to calm and from burnout to balance. Because the hidden load does not have to be yours to carry alone, and in fact, shouldn't be. Let's get started.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Hidden Load. This is episode number 18, Lonely in Medicine. I am your host, Dr. Santina Wheat. I'm a family medicine physician, an educator, and a career and life coach who is dedicated to helping healthcare workers conquer their chaos and get back to calm so that they can find their joy and fulfillment. And today, I want to talk about something that just does not get talked about nearly enough in medicine, and that is loneliness. It is that quiet, gnawing feeling of being surrounded by people all day, whether it's patients or teams or learners, and still feeling like nobody really sees you. Or worse, like you don't even have time to connect. Now, I'm happy to say that there has been more conversation recently about loneliness in physicians and why physicians, more than many other professions, tend to feel lonely. Part of it is cultural. We're taught early in our careers and trainings to hold ourselves back, to contain our struggles, to manage everything efficiently, often at the cost of real human interaction. Think about it. In the effort to get out and home from work on time, we may skip informal gatherings and avoid chatting with colleagues in hallways, or even decline the lunch celebrations. And we do it all in the name of efficiency. And on one level, that really makes sense, especially for an introvert like me who needs to find the time to recharge. But for all of us, you might have charts to finish, patients who are waiting, and the many family responsibilities that are so important. But on another level, this behavior quietly isolates us. And over time, it even erodes the very support systems that could make work feel more sustainable. Now, don't get me wrong. Loneliness in medicine is not a moral failing. It is not that you are bad at relationships or that you are weak. It is structural. And today, I want to unpack why that happens, how it shows up, and more importantly, what we can do about it, both for ourselves and for the teams that we are educating or leading. Now, let me be clear. When I talk about loneliness in medicine, I am not talking about some vague sadness or a feeling off once in a while. Instead, I am talking about a pervasive sense that even when you are surrounded by people, there is a barrier between you and those meaningful connections. You might notice it in some subtle ways. Maybe it's that you avoid the lounge, or skip celebrations, or you finish work and head straight home because it's just faster. And I'll be honest, I did this myself and do this myself still sometimes. I remember often early in my career thinking skipping lunchtime celebrations or those small team gatherings was the smart choice. In my mind, it meant that I could finish my work faster, I could leave on time, and I could get home without the extra stress. It meant that I could see my kids, though often they were already ready for bed. It meant that I could recover, though I didn't really use that time in a way that was good for recovery. On paper, all of this seemed like it was efficiency. But then, I would see the photos the next day, or I would hear about the conversations and the insights that I had missed. And I would feel that sharp, nagging scent of regret. I would think of it as FOMO, but not really. It wasn't about jealousy. It was about realizing that I was missing out on a connection. I was missing out on learning something new, on hearing a perspective that I had not considered, or even just laughing with colleagues in a way that reminded me that we were all in this together. About getting to know them in that space that wasn't just the high stress pressure of our jobs. The paradox is this: these very behaviors that we adopt to protect our time, to be more efficient, to survive long days, are often the same behaviors that fuel our isolation. We hold ourselves back because we are tired, or we think that connection is a luxury. But in doing so, we also sacrifice some of the very moments that are so important to make our work sustainable. So, why does this happen so often for those of us in medicine? Well, there are a few overlapping reasons, and let's talk about them. One of the first reasons is that we learn early in medicine to hold ourselves back. Medicine teaches competence, it teaches containment, and it teaches emotional efficiency. You are absolutely rewarded for handling situations independently, for containing your stress, and for being able to compartmentalize. In all of these spaces, vulnerability is not encouraged. In fact, asking for help is often seen as a weakness. And over time, this builds an internalized script. Don't burden the others. Make sure you keep your struggles private. Maintain the appearance of control. And what is the side effect of this? Well, isolation. And not only isolation for ourselves, but it continues the hidden culture of teaching this. And so it means isolation for everyone else, for our learners and our team members. Now, a second reason is that our culture in medicine prioritizes efficiency. And don't get me wrong, efficiency is a good thing. It helps us care for our patients. It helps us manage time. And in theory, it helps us prevent burnout. But in practice, efficiency, particularly without intentionality and connection, often comes at the expense of informal human connection. If we're just focused on efficiency without the connection, how many times do we bypass hallway conversations or avoid chatting after rounds just to save a few minutes? Those minutes absolutely add up. But you know what? So does the distance. It might mean that we miss that important debrief after a really difficult case. And our learners miss seeing how we feel about those difficult cases. We might miss the shared laughter over a small victory, or the opportunity to see that somebody else saw that victory. We might miss the opportunity to mentor or be mentored, or to teach, or to learn from a colleague. Each of these micro moments matters much more than we realize as we are going through them. Now, third, in medicine, as we move into leadership or education roles, loneliness can actually intensify. Suddenly, you find yourself with fewer peers at your level. There's more responsibility, and there's increased pressure to always appear stable and composed. You're expected to support everyone else. But where is your support? Leaders find that they are less likely to have colleagues in whom they can confide. They have to be much more intentional in order to find those peers, in order to find someone else in which they can have those conversations. Loneliness often peaks at precisely the point when you are the most capable of influencing the culture around you. And that's just hard because you might be hurt from the loneliness. And here is the kicker. When leaders are lonely, their teams feel it too. Teams with the disconnected leaders see more stress. They feel less psychological safety, and they have more withdrawal from colleagues. So that means that loneliness isn't just an individual issue for us. It means that it's systemic, and it really does ripple across the teams. Now, loneliness doesn't just hurt emotionally. It affects every part of your professional life. When you're impacted by loneliness, burnout increases, retention decreases, judgment can be compromised, teaching effectiveness drops, and then you and your team become less resilient. And leaders who model isolation, whether they are modeling it intentionally or not, signal to their teams that connection is optional, or worse, that connection is a distraction. This is not a small problem. This is a hidden driver of stress and also disengagement in medicine, and one that we need to do something about. So, what can we do about this? Well, if I'm honest, I don't think that there is a fix that is one size fits all. And I don't think that there's a fix that's right for each of our personalities. But there are practical steps that can make a real difference, even within the busiest clinical environments. So the first step is to stop expecting connection to happen by accident. You can't leave it to chance. Just like in so many other things that are important, intentionality matters. I want you to identify where connection should happen and do everything that you can to protect it. Perhaps it is a weekly team huddle, or perhaps it is a 2-minute check-in before rounds. Perhaps it's a debrief after a tough patient encounter. These moments do not need to be long, but these moments do absolutely need to exist, and you need to be intentional about letting your team know that they exist. The second recommendation I have is to normalize the micro connections. I encourage you to ask one meaningful question and actually listen. Notice the small personal details about your colleagues. It might be their interests, their hobbies, or the things that they are proud of. This allows you to make small gestures that matter. Maybe it's recommending an article, or sharing a tip, or inviting them to an event, or recommending them to go to a different one, or even just remembering their small joys. Each of these micro moments build trust and also reciprocity. And the unintentional benefit, when you invest in learning about your colleagues, they also start investing in you in return. It is mutual. It doesn't feel heavy, and it doesn't have to take much time. And I would argue that the time that it does take is extremely important in ensuring your fulfillment and that of your team. So the third recommendation that I have, particularly for the leaders and educators, is to model what it is that you want to see. You can share selective vulnerability. You can admit when something is hard and say something like, "That was a tough day," or "I needed support this week." Doing so gives permission to your team to be human without oversharing, and it encourages authentic connection in the workplace. You can even use this as moments of praise, particularly when a team member has helped you out. You can thank them for stepping in when you were past your bandwidth. You can also use it as an opportunity to share how they were able to excel. The fourth recommendation that I have for you is to be honest about these trade-offs. Efficiency and connection, well, they often feel mutually exclusive, but they don't actually have to be. Can you leave 5 minutes later once a week to check in with someone? Can you protect one informal touch point on your team calendar? Can these moments be integrated into the workflow rather than tacked on as extra. These small intentional acts make connection inevitable, even on the busiest days. An easy way to do this is to add it to the agenda, to have it an intentional part of your team meetings, so everyone knows that this is where you're going to start. As I look back on the pandemic, a time when many of us would have said that we were lonely, I often go back to the virtual committee meetings that I had with people across the country, and I credit them with getting me through. I credit them with reminding me that I wasn't alone, that others were going through what I was going through. Some of my committee members became the people that I would reach out to on the bad days, that reminded me that what I was doing was worthwhile, and that again reminded me that I wasn't alone. When I see these people now, this amazing amount of joy bubbles up in my heart because they were so important in getting me through. And even as an introvert who doesn't always think that connection is the most important thing, that group of people, that committee, really brought for me the importance of connection. It reminded me that even though I often need to recharge alone, finding that time to connect is so valuable in ensuring that I don't become lonely. But now, if you are feeling lonely in medicine, I want you to know this. It is not because you are failing. It is because the system is designed that way. The system is designed to make you lonely because we often hold ourselves back in the name of efficiency and, honestly, in the name of survival. But change, it's absolutely possible. You can start small and be intentional and model that connection. You don't need deep daily sharing. You just need consistent micro moments that build trust, understanding, and belonging. And when you build in those micro moments, it models for your learners and your team members that this is important, and it will help them not be lonely too. Now, as we close, I want you to take a moment and reflect. Where has the efficiency quietly replaced connection in your work life? And if you have noticed that you have lost connection in your work life, where can you quietly put it back? Now, if this resonated with you and you would like some support rebuilding connection without adding much more to your plate, I hope you'll check out my coaching or consider bringing me to your institution to talk about this. Because sustainable medicine is not just about surviving the work, it is about not doing the work alone. Thank you for joining me in what has been a difficult topic. And I hope that you have felt less alone in knowing that you are not the only one facing this. And I hope you'll join me next week as I bring on a guest speaker to help you lighten your hidden load.
Thanks for joining me on The Hidden Load. Tag me on Instagram at Dr. Tina Wheat or email me at santina@santinawheat.com with your takeaways and ideas. Don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, let's lighten your hidden load.